All right, everyone, welcome in. This is Eagles Talk Live. We're talking defensive draft prospects. We got Les Bowen. We got general news and notes concerning your Philadelphia Eagles as we barrel towards the draft and hopefully a repeat Super Bowl championship come next February. Let's go.
You love the Eagles, let me get a hell yeah! You love the Philadelphia Eagles, let me get a hell yeah! Hell yeah! Philadelphia!
All right, welcome in. This is Eagles Talk exclusively on A2D Radio, broadcasting live from the Real Talk Studios. We can be found on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, X, Instagram, wherever you get your podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, Google Play, iHeartRadio, iTunes. If you haven't already, hit that like, hit that subscribe. It's draft season, baby. This is where you build up what you've lost in free agency and hopefully find some starters and some hidden gems so you can go back at it next year and not skip a beat. Obviously, the elephant in the room here in Philadelphia, they lost a lot on defense. A lot of this offense is locked up. A lot of this offense is studs. Some would say that this offense is an all-star team. So, obviously, Milton Williams leaves. Josh Sweat leaves. Isaiah Rodgers leaves. Darius Slay leaves. The list goes on and on and on. So, it brings us to our poll question tonight, which is, considering what the Eagles lost on defense, they should emphasize defense in the draft. Agree, disagree? Let us know what you think in the comments. Peter, what do you think? I think this is a pretty easy, obvious layup, slam dunk poll question, but let's see how it goes here.
So when we're talking about this, like, we lost some pieces on defense. I completely understand that. Are we talking like we got to emphasize it throughout the draft, or do we have to emphasize it specifically in the first round of the draft? That would be my question.
Well, my original poll question was the Eagles should take defense with their first selection, whenever that may be. They might move up, they might move down.
So I've seen a lot of people talk about this, and obviously we're going to get to the poll, but like I think it's a multi-layered question in a sense that, like, throughout the draft, I think you need to prioritize defense. Like, you've lost some key pieces, you lost some guys, you lost a corner, you've lost CJGJ, so you have to go out and you have to prioritize defense throughout this draft. So in that aspect, I would agree. In the first round, I kind of disagree because it's all going to depend on how the board falls. Because I've seen a lot of people say this, and they're like, oh, well, you have to draft edge no matter what. And I couldn't disagree with that more. Because at 32, what you do at 32 is not what you would do at 24. What I would do at 24 is I would be very keen on getting one of those edge players. But at 32, like, you're at such an advantageous spot to where you could basically take anyone and you could explain it. If you got the kid from Ohio State at 32 and you had him high enough on your board, I can get behind it. If
Which
you drafted
kid? The whole team is,
I think his name is Rukamama, or what this is. What the hell is this kid's name? It's trying to drive me crazy. But you could draft him. Like, you could go out and draft Trey Amos at 32. He's a highly touted cornerback prospect. You know what I mean? I'd be fine
for a visit.
Yeah, I'd be fine going out and getting a guard at 32 if you feel that that's the right fit for it. Tight end is also someone. Mason Tyler is someone that's really good. Colton, the guy we were talking about last week, like Colton Loveless. Like, there's a lot of good players in this draft where just because you need something doesn't mean you have to draft it. Like, obviously you want to have an impact player at 32, you know what I mean? Like, but you don't, if we're at 24, I feel like the rules are a little bit lessened because at 24, I need an edge player in my honest opinion. At 32, I need a good player. I need someone who can make a difference for me.
But
And
I mean,
at 32, you can go a little bit different because if the guy is high on your board, you can probably make it make sense, as opposed to 24 where it might be a little bit more difficult because there's going to be more options. There's going to be guys there. At 32, if somebody falls there, maybe you weren't expecting, you could probably do that.
I want to see him draft defense.
I do too, but it all depends where we're at. If we're at 24, I need one of those edge guys. I need, you know what I mean? I need James Pro.
You can draft a safety or a corner at 32.
I need Walter Nolan. I need Malachi Starks. One of those guys at 24, because I think at that point, I think they're all available right now. But at 32, I'm okay with just I don't need a specific position because there's going to be options, but you don't have to draft conventional at 32, whereas you probably have to draft conventionally at 24.
I don't understand. I don't understand your logic with if they move up in the 20s, which I think is a strong possibility considering the draft capital they have not only this year but going forward.
If you move up in the 20s, those guys are most likely going to be there. Your Malachi Starks, your Walter Nolan, guys like that, like Michael Williams, are going to be probably around there. But at 32, most of those guys are probably going to be gone. And some of you have two options.
They're not all going to be gone. There's only 31 picks before you pick.
I understand that. There's a good chance that those guys are gone by 32. And if my best player available on my board at 32 is a wide receiver, is a tight end, is a guard, or a corner, I'm okay with taking that.
But because they didn't have the offseason that they needed to go 1,000% best player available, in my opinion. They have boxed themselves into one side of the football.
But that's why it's not one draft. You have the whole draft to facilitate. You can still make trades.
I understand that.
This is an issue that fans are putting themselves into to where they're like, oh my God, we lost all these pieces. We got to go out and get this specific thing. And that doesn't work out. It has not worked out well for the Eagles, where you're forcing yourself to make that pick. That's what we did with Jalen Reagor, right? We need a wide receiver. We need a wide receiver. It has to be a speedy wide receiver. And it bit us in the butt. When it came to drafting Devontae Smith, not only did we need a wide receiver, we got someone who fit what we were looking for, and the board just kind of fell the way it fell. That's what I think they need to operate with. Let the board fall the way it needs to fall, and just pick the best player where you're at.
All right, there's our poll question. Eagles should emphasize defense in this draft. Before we get to some comments, let's bring in our good friend, Mr. Les Bowen for Bowen on the Birds. Les, good evening. Thank you for joining us as always.
Hello, Rob. Hello, PY. What's going on?
It's just with everybody. Gardner Johnson, Slay,
yeah,
Milton Williams, Nakobe Dean. I'm not really counting on him next year. Josh Sweat is gone.
Agreed. Yeah.
You still have an all-star team on offense, Les.
Should they emphasize defense in the draft? Yes, absolutely. They should emphasize defense in the draft. Does that mean the first-round pick has to be a defensive pick? No. I kind of agree with PY there. I mean, if the best player available is like Shadur Sanders or somebody, I'm not taking a quarterback. But, yeah, I would take a tight end or something, wide receiver, if you have that guy as a future all-pro and you don't have the edge rusher that's available at 32 as an all-pro or the safety or whatever. I mean, those are things you need, but you don't have to, there's more than one round to the draft. So, yes, they should emphasize defense, but they don't have to oh my God, we've got to get first round. We've got to get something, for the defense. No, I don't really feel that way.
So I have the depth chart up here.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, offensively, now, unless I get a text alert from Bleacher Report or CBS Sports or whatever one of the million alerts I get that Dallas Goedert is traded, I'm going to work under the assumption that he is going to be here until
I
I'm
don't
told
think
otherwise.
he's not going to be.
I would not work under that assumption, Rob.
Yeah. I just
You think
can't
he's
imagine
gone?
he's going to be here. I don't really understand it 100%. This is the first year I can remember where there's all this talk about cash outlay.
Yeah.
I've never heard that as any sort of consideration for the Eagles. They've always been at the top of the league in the cash. There's cash and there's the cap, and they're two different things. And the Eagles always end up paying at the top of the league in cash. But apparently they're concerned about the $14.5 million cash that they owe Dallas Goedert. Does it matter to me? No. I don't get it, but I don't really get it. I don't know what they're going to use that cash for. I know Lurie sold some minority interests in the team to sort of raise some cash this year. I think one thing people maybe don't understand fully is, if somebody says the Eagles are worth like $5 billion, right? That doesn't mean Jeffrey Lurie has a vault with $5 billion sitting in it. That means if he sold the team,
He would get that.
that. Yeah. He doesn't have any of that. He doesn't have any more money theoretically than he had when he bought the team. He does have more, but I guess that's a consideration for them. I don't understand it. I guess they have gone to Goddard and asked to redo the deal and rebuff. If I were Goddard, I wouldn't look askance at that. Frankly, at age 30, with the injury history he has, missing a quarter of the season each of the last 4 years, is somebody going to pay you a ton of money out there somewhere? Maybe not. You're with a really good organization that you've been with since you were drafted 7 years ago. Maybe take a little. You got a lot of money out of this deal. Maybe take a little less to stick around. But that apparently isn't his calculation. And I don't think he's going to be here. And I think they do have to draft a tight end.
But that's not
those 2 days.
It's such a lateral move, and it's probably Dallas Goedert. He's a good player. That's a
yes,
so if
I agree.
He is, but he's also he's a good player who you can't rely on a significant basis.
Yeah, but I'll argue the other side of the ledger here because I love listening to myself talk. In the playoffs, how'd he look? Did he miss any games in the playoffs?
No, he looked good in
Was
the playoffs.
he the team's leading receiver?
He had a touchdown in the Super Bowl. I believe.
Would you have won the Super Bowl if what's his name had been your starting tight end, the other guy, Calcaterra? No.
Probably not.
All I'm saying about this Dallas Goedert stuff is if we get to Thursday night of the first round and Dallas Goedert gets shipped out for a 5th round pick and they take Mason Tyler, that's not going to sit well with me.
I agree.
I mean, you might as well get on board right now.
Yeah. But I wasn't on board. I mean, Goddard was a very good value at 49 overall in 2018. But the whole idea of drafting him and sort of shoving Zach Ertz slowly toward the exit ramp, I never agreed with that. Everybody kept telling me, "Oh, Goddard, he's so much bigger and he'll be so much of a better player." He was never a better player than Zach Ertz.
He's never even Ertz's level. I'm not the biggest Goddard fan. He's never been as good as people expected him to be.
Right.
He's never been on Ertz's level. We can talk about yak Zach or whatever, but the biggest moments Zach always performed.
Zach they won their first Super Bowl a lot because of Zach Ertz.
Yeah, consistently. And guess what? After 2016, Zach Ertz was healthy every freaking year after that.
I know.
You could depend on Zach Ertz to be healthy. You weren't.
He wasn't
depending
as
on
good
him
a blocker as Goddard, but
No,
he was
Goddard
out
is a
there. He
much
didn't miss a
better
quarter of
blocker.
every damn season like Goddard has,
You can't.
But they're
I'm
doing the
paying
same thing again, is what I'm
Exactly.
trying to say.
Yeah.
They're going to get rid of a perfectly good Pro Bowl quality tight end to go out and, find somebody cheaper for a few years.
But they also, I think this also lends to why they're just ready to cut bait with Goddard, is because they've seen this play out before.
Yeah.
They're holding on to Ertz for like a year and a half, and then the return is nothing.
Yeah.
They got what, like a 5th round pick and some other player whose name is escaping me.
Yeah.
Like, I understand.
With Goddard, you put your finger, PY, on a big thing there, which is they signed him to this huge deal in 2021. I wrote about this last week for PHLY. They signed him to this huge deal in 2021 that made him the second highest paid per year tight end at the time, ahead of Travis Kelce. And 3 full seasons since then, have they gotten that kind of return on their investment? No, they really have not. And general managers hate that. I mean, they hate that with a passion. They are really into, a lot of times as fans and media, we sort of lead, if guys get hurt, it's like, oh, poor so-and-so, he got hurt. General managers don't look at it that way. They look at it like, what the hell? I paid this guy for X. I didn't get X, And I really think that's a big part of this. Even though he had a great playoff, even though they would not have won the Super Bowl without him, I really think there's a lot of residual, we gave you the big deal and you took quarter of the season off for the next 3 years and never put up the numbers. And also, I'll say this again, I say it every week when this comes up, Jalen Hurts, for whatever reason, doesn't throw to the tight end. So that was kind of Carson Wentz's thing, but it's not Jalen Hurts' thing. And maybe you don't need a guy that's capable of 1,000-yard season, as they've often felt Goddard was, although he's never done it.
Okay, then that's fine. Then trade Dallas Goddard and don't take Mason Tyler at 32.
Yeah.
If you can just plug anybody
They
in
might
there
not.
and everything's going to be
They
fine.
might take a guy in the 3rd round that we don't know anything about.
I mean, I know who they're taking in the 3rd round. I'll give you a hint. His name is Harold Fanning.
Yeah. Okay. The guy from Bowling Green.
Yes,
the guy from Bowling Green.
Yeah, sure.
Kevin Patullo coached him.
And again, Goddard was 49th overall in the 2nd round. He wasn't a 1st-round pick.
Huh.
And he was very well scouted, and people liked him going into the draft. It's just you don't always take tight ends in the 1st round. They don't.
I think it's just
Ertz wasn't taken in the 1st round.
Yeah, I think it's all going to depend on the value and who's there and who's available. Like at 32, you don't have to go conventional. Like when you're drafting 20 or 25, whatever, it's more of a conventional pick. At 32, if someone's there who's decent, take him. Because if you look through like the history of the 32nd pick, it's not exactly anything to write home about.
Well, see, that's the thing, T.Y. I don't think they're going to draft at 32.
I don't either, but I'm just saying.
They will either trade up
there,
significantly trade up, or trade back into the 2nd round. One of the two things. If they trade up, then maybe they can get Malachi Starks, or maybe they can get Walker Nolan,
James Pierce,
guy that everybody seems to be mocking to them at 32 now. I don't think he's going to make it to 32, but what do I?
Nick Scourton is another name.
Yeah. Right.
I like the other guy. I like the other guy from Texas A&M. I like Shamar Stewart and Walter Nolan. Let's get this.
You're not getting Shamar Stewart's not lasting anywhere close to that. If he's still there,
then go get him. Go up and get him.
Do you want to go up
do
to
that?
15?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather if they trade back, I'm going to be pissed as well.
Yeah,
what can you do? Like how
trading.
many picks do you need?
Yeah, and you're just closing the door on a real 1st-round talent when you trade back. I know it worked for them in 2018, but I don't like it.
It's a big deal when you pick less. It's a big deal, in my opinion, when you take a guy even at 32 as opposed to 33 because you can get that 5th-year option. That's a big deal. That's a whole nother year that you get to look at the guy before you potentially give him real money.
Yeah, but you
look
also
at Jordan Davis right now.
You
if
need
they
two
had
people.
drafted Jordan Davis in the 2nd round Would he be an Eagle next season? I don't know.
Probably not.
But
Yeah.
you also need someone to tango with. Like, you need another person to make a deal. Like,
There's
they were
going to be
talking-
plenty of trade partners at the draft at whatever point. Like,
But it can be tough late in the first round.
So,
I mean, there's
I
not a
forget
lot
who-
of teams
I forget
that want
who
to
brought
draft
this
picks.
up. I think it was the Inquirer, where they were talking about the Eagles trading up to go get Jalen Carter. Nobody bit. Like, they were trying to move up pretty high in the draft to draft him, and nobody was biting until Chicago. And they
Yeah.
ended up only having to give up a 4th-round pick. But let's say
Yeah.
Chicago didn't want to bite and they wanted to take him. There's nothing they can do.
What you need is a team that has a guy that they really like. Maybe they've already made their first-round pick, and there's this other guy that's still out there, and they can't believe it, and he's not going to get to them in the second round. Like the Eagles with Cooper DeJean last year. You know, hey, there's this guy, boy, we love this guy, and he's not going to make it to our pick in the second round. So let's trade up to 32 and get this guy, you know, or trade. Yeah.
Your perfect trade partner, Les, in my opinion, it's the Vikings.
Yeah.
Like, it couldn't be a better fit if you tried. Because remember, they don't have a pick until the 3rd round.
they don't have a first-round pick?
No, until they don't have a 2nd-round pick. So they don't pick again until the 3rd round.
Oh, they have the first rounder and then the 3rd round, you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what
All right,
is
let's
their
get this-
first-round pick? Where is it?
24.
That'd be about
That's-
it. That's a decent.
That's a sweet spot.
Yeah. And you wouldn't have to give up a ton to move from 32 to 24. You know, that's not a gigantic move up.
All right, let's get to some comments here. People chiming in on the chat. Greg Miller on YouTube. Agree.
Yeah.
Add on defense, most definitely. Chucks is in the house. He'll be back soon.
Chucks,
Talking
please
draft.
come back.
He must have been listening last week because he did a big write-up on my boy, RJ Harvey.
Oh, okay.
Is it RJ Harvey, the running back out of the Central Florida? Who
I know he
like.
loves the guy. I know Chucks loves the guy from Rutgers.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
I think, like, if you played for Rutgers and you have a chance of being drafted, like, Chuck's just, I don't know if he went there or what his deal is. He's a big fan. I don't know.
Come
Yeah.
here and
What's going
defend
on
yourself.
So, Les, the Vikings have 4 picks in total in the NFL draft this year.
Wow.
1st round, 3rd round, 5th round, and then 6th round. So,
Yeah, they
if
need
there's
more.
ever,
Yeah.
yes, they do. And what they don't own any of their original picks. The 97th pick in the 3rd round was a compensatory. 139 is a pick from Cleveland, and 187 is a pick from San Francisco.
Yeah,
Like, this screams
good
trade
homework,
partner.
FPY. I like your thinking. Good thinking. Yes.
Chuck, there's Chuck's comment. Cedric, he's in the house. Chat's coming soon. Rob Povia, Hockey Happy Hour. He's coming in hot.
I wonder what Rob thinks of something happened today. Chris Simon, who was a Flyer when I covered the Flyers back in the Stone Ages, his family announced that Chris committed suicide last year. His family announced that he had stage 3 CTE, which really had a huge impact on his life after hockey. And that's why when I was covering hockey, I didn't mind the fighting at all. I know people here like it. I didn't mind it. But after seeing so many tough guys have this, which is a problem obviously in football as well, but in hockey, it's mostly the tough guys, the fighters who fight obviously bare knuckled, head to fist. Nah, you don't need that. I don't need a guy 52 years old killing himself because he's messed up because he played hockey and fought every year. No. Anyway,
There's Rob Povia. Defense in the NFL has become a game of plug and play. Look at pieces added last year and how it's.
Well, it certainly happened here last year. I don't know if that's true in all cases.
Yeah, I mean,
I was surprised, frankly. I was surprised that Quinyon Mitchell was as ready as he was. I was surprised that Cooper DeJean was as ready as he was. Not everybody is, though. Nolan Smith sure as hell wasn't the year before.
So the synopsis of Rob is he disagrees with our poll
Okay.
and he thinks it should be best available player.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, but I think in the draft overall, I want to go more toward defense, if that's at all possible. If it doesn't run that way,
Yes, Greg. Yes, that would be a home run
well,
hit.
and the second thing Greg says there, that's my guy for day 2, 3rd round.
Jack Sawyer.
Jack Sawyer. Yes.
Yes.
I know.
I
Everybody
like him a lot
says
too.
he's not fast enough, and he doesn't bend right or something.
This is what I love about
I
the
see
draft.
the man make plays is what I see.
Exact production.
Yeah.
Production.
But Wes, how did he do in shorts?
Yeah, I don't care. Yeah.
I'm not even. I know who this guy is
but
from Boston College.
A little bit prejudiced there, but I do like Jack Sawyer an awful lot.
As a rank through is very
I know
good.
who the Boston College guy is. I'm not even going to try and pronounce his name. My apologies.
No, me neither.
A lot of people are buzzing around that guy.
And that's why the Eagles will draft him. That was always my theory when I was a beat writer is anytime there was a guy whose name was impossible to spell or pronounce, that was the Eagles draft. Big V. You know, I'll never forget somebody did a mock draft before that draft and said, yeah, here's this guy, Halapulavati Vaitai, you know, and they'll draft him. And I was like, sure they will. And they did.
So
go ahead.
And as far as the Eagles' top 30 visits go, they've brought in 5 guys who are viewed significantly like mocked in the first round. Mm-hmm. Malachi Starks, obviously, they still have. It's Thursday, right? It's the last day they can do top 30 visits, I believe.
Yeah.
So Malachi Starks, Josh Connolly Jr., Donovan Ezeriku, I probably butchered that name, Nick Scallerton, Trey Amos.
Do you have the full list of everyone that they brought in for a top 30 visit so far?
I can pull that up.
Yeah, do that. Let's see what they're – because if you don't – you're going to pick guys on your top 30 visits, obviously.
The problem is, do you know everybody they brought in? I mean, they don't have to release the names.
They don't? Okay.
Usually agents say to somebody, hey, the Eagles brought in so-and-so. But sometimes there might be an agent who doesn't, you know. I don't know. I mean, anytime it's not an official list, I'm a little, you know, there could be 1 or 2 guys that they brought in that we don't know about, but
yeah. So I have the list. So it's those 5 I just stated are first round mock guys. You have Marcus Mabu, offensive lineman, Donovan Jackson, Charles Grant, Tyleek Williams, T.J. Sanders, Shamar Turner, Maxwell Harrison, Anthony Belton, Owafemi Ajadeo, Jacob Parrish, Jaden Blue, Elijah Roberts, Dylan Fairchild, which is a name me and Briggs discussed last week, Jaden Reed, safety, another interesting 4th or 5th round option, Jalen Travis, Kobe King, Tyler Barron, Jalen Smith as of right now.
Okay. There you have it. I've heard of some of them.
Yeah, me too.
I really like Jaden Reed. I really like
to know who all those guys are.
You said the Kentucky corner, Harrison.
Yep.
Yeah, he just finds the football. He had 5 interceptions in the SEC last year. I'm not as sold on Keely Ringo starting as most people. I think that's the least of our problems in the secondary because I think they really need a safety. Because if you look at I have the depth chart here on ESPN. So
you got Brown and Blankenship. Brown and Blankenship have to be your starters right now.
Right now, yes, but I'm just going to work. So you have Moro Ojama starting at left defensive end. I don't know how that's going to work out.
I mean,
no, he's going to be a tackle, right?
I'm just telling you what it says here. So they have us listed as a 3-4. The Eagles listed as a 3-4 base defense with Ojamo, Jordan Davis, and Jalen Carter starting up front. I mean, I don't think that's a fit at all for Moro Ojamo.
And that's not really what they do. They do more of a 5 front. But
they do a lot of different stuff. Vic Fangio does a lot of different stuff.
Right.
But
I mean, you go out and you get Malachi Starks in the first round. I'd be extremely excited about that.
Yeah,
I
They have
would too.
never
Because
drafted
You got
starting.
you get Trey Amos in the first round. I'd be excited about that. Nick
they've never
Skeleton
drafted a
solid.
safety in the first round, but when you're at 32,
Yeah.
it's not like you're taking him at 4.
No.
It wouldn't bother me that much if it's the right guy. Sure.
I mean,
Absolutely.
you go to the linebacker position, you have Nakobe Dean. I don't know what you're going to get from him next year.
Yeah.
Then you have, really Trotter.
Mm-hmm.
A guy named Dallas Grant is listed here. I don't know much about him. And then,
That's fine.
the edge rushers on the bench right now are Jalix Hunt and Azeez Ajalori, who comes over from the Giants after a very injury play career up there in New York.
Well, where is Zach Bond listed?
Inside Zach Bond, he's the Zach Bond and Nakobe Dean are listed as starters.
Oh, okay. All right.
Inside linebackers.
Yeah.
Tristan McCollum is listed on ESPN over Sidney Brown for strong safety,
Laughable.
with Lewis Sin, which I believe he's another Georgia guy, if I'm not mistaken.
Lewis, yeah.
So, I mean, is that good enough? I don't know if that's good enough.
No, it isn't. No, you either draft a safety high or you sign Justin Simmons after the draft, which is what they did with Becton last year.
Yeah.
You can fix it, but yeah, you're not going to war with that. Absolutely.
Then you got, right guard is listed as
Tyler Steen.
It's not listed as Tyler Steen. He is listed as the backup left guard. Kenyon Green is listed as a starting right guard with, Matt Pryor.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
This is craziness.
It's April 14th. I don't give a crap what the depth chart looks like at April 14th.
Well, whose depth chart is this again? It's not
ESPN's.
Yeah,
Talk to me August 14th and let me know if this roster still looks like this.
Well, the point of the exercise is they have a lot more
what do they
work
need
to do
from
on
the draft?
the
I
defensive side of the
understand,
ball than the offensive side of the ball.
I understand
Even
your
if
point.
you lose Dallas Goedert, you still should have a very prolific offense, even though it wasn't really a.
You're going to have 20 picks over the next 2 years. You have
year.
more than enough ammunition to either trade up or trade for a guy. Trade for a guy who can help this team. Yeah. You could also maybe do a DeAndre Swift type trade to where, maybe a team isn't in love with the guy, maybe they draft someone else.
Yeah. That's very good. That's an excellent point, PY. And we never know until we get to the draft who those teams are,
Well, that team's the Eagles because apparently they don't like.
No, who the team is that doesn't like a guy? Oh, you mean getting rid of Goddard? Yeah. Yeah. I just wonder what the market is. I 30 years old, hurt every year.
I think
the Eagles. Is he that valuable to the rest of the league?
So the two teams I think make a lot of sense to me. I guess 3 teams that make a lot of sense just because I think they could use a good tight end. I think the Browns adding another big pass catcher makes a lot of sense. I think the Bills, especially, to get a safety net for Josh Allen. And
Goddard could help them with the tush push.
He could, because, Josh Allen, he's not very good at it.
Right.
So, and the Colts also make perfect sense. That last-ditch effort to put Anthony Richardson over the top, not to mention the relationship with Shane Steichen.
Oh, Nick loves to trade with the Colts. Yeah,
he does.
If there's anybody left there from when Nick was there, they'll trade for him.
Joseph Orkowski apparently got her in a pick
for Kyle Pitts.
Is been floated around.
Well, what kind of pick are we talking?
I don't care. I don't want Kyle Pitts.
But
here's the thing,
Pitts, right?
If I'm swapping Kyle Pitts for Dallas Goedert, I'm getting the pick back. I'm not giving a pick to get Kyle Pitts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you want to give me Kyle Pitts and like a 5th and a 6th, I'm okay with that.
Well, Pitts was a top 5 pick.
Yes.
He hasn't
And I-
lived
and
up to that. I
And
don't
I
know how
laughed
much
at
of
people
that is
wanting to
Atlanta,
take
how much
top
of it
5
is
when they did
him.
it.
There's Joseph Furkowski, Justin Simmons still floating around, and he stated he wants to play here for Vic.
Yeah.
So obviously his best years were in
the
Denver under Vic Fangio.
Playing for the Falcons for 1 year will do that to you.
Yeah, sure will. So we were talking about Kyle Pitts a minute ago. Since we're usually trying to fill time here, I'll tell you a quick story. That was the 2021 draft, which was the last one I covered for the Inquirer. I was there. It was in Cleveland, and they were in different floors of this facility we were in. And, you had to try to help out your fellow writers, right? So Paul Domowitch was doing a Kyle Pitts piece. So I ran down to where Kyle Pitts was to try to get some quotes for Damo for his piece on Kyle Pitts, knowing that the Eagles weren't going to pick for quite a while yet. Well, I'm down there trying to listen to Kyle Pitts, and I hear that the Eagles have traded up, which is the Devontae Smith acquisition. Okay. And I had to run up like 3 flights of stairs. And even then in 2021, I was not a young man. And to get to where they were drafting, it was fraught. It was quite fraught, I have to tell you. But if they ever got Kyle Pitts, then I could tell him that story.
There you go. You got an in. Habib 215, draft for every position we lost in free agency.
Yeah. Well, that brings up something that I hate about these mocks, these Eagles-only mocks. What a lot of people do is they take every position that the Eagles have been known to need. Okay, first round, we get them the edge rusher. Second round, we get them the tight end. Third round, we get them the safety. Fourth round, we get them, whatever the next need is. It doesn't work like that. You don't just tick off the needs one round after another. You're going to have a round where, hey, there's an offensive tackle that our scouts really, really like. I'll guarantee it. You're not going to just go down the list of needs that you have and draft one of those every round. That's not how it works.
No, like whoever is there and they're hiring your board, go take them. Like if you feel good about the guy, go take him. Like I was getting arguments with people about this. You have to take an edge in the first round. I don't care if a corner is ranked higher on your board. That doesn't make a lot of sense. Here's the thing.
A great corner always makes a lot of sense.
If Trey Amos is there at 32, and Walter Nolan is gone, James Pierce is gone, Michael Williams, Malachi Starks, and guys like that are gone, and I have Trey Amos higher than another edge player, I'm taking him. Yes. If I have a wide receiver higher, I'm taking him. If I have a tight end or a guard higher, that's who I'm taking.
If somebody's going to be a star over what you project as a mediocre edge rusher, now you take the star. Jesus Christ, yes.
All right, so I just
because of a certain position is never good, and it's never worked out for the Eagles. It's set them back.
Always been a disaster. In fact,
Marcus Smith, Jalen Reagor,
yeah, over and over again. Well, Reagor the position wasn't the problem. The guy they picked was the problem. But I've seen it. For years, they were trying to draft safeties, and they weren't doing it in the first round, but they were often doing it in the second round, and the guys always sucked. Jaquan Jarrett,
That was the McNabb. That was the McNabb compensation, right?
Yeah.
Earl Wolf.
The Earl of Wolf, yeah. Now, injuries factored into the Earl of Wolf. He was actually not a terrible player. Jaquan Jarrett was not a good player. He couldn't run, in the NFL today, safeties need to run, but they have often tried to draft for need, and it does not work. You're right. Anybody else got any advice?
Prince, you were saying something before I cut you off. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't remember what it was.
I'm
trying to look for Peter Schrager's mock draft. I had it earlier because I typed it in the chat GPT earlier, and he's one of the most accurate mock drafters out there.
He
If
just
they're
changed
even-
jobs.
Did he really? I missed that.
Yeah. Well, he went from, where was he?
He was on Good Morning Football. He was fantastic.
He was NFL then, right?
NFL Network, yes.
Now he's going to ESPN. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you find
Anyway, I
it?
can't find it. That's probably why I can't find it, because I'm looking on NFL.com.
No, they probably took it off after he
They
left.
probably took it off.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I feel good about the draft. Like, obviously, like,
Here is this
Howie-
CBS Sports.
all right, let's go. Who they have us taking?
We here?
Yeah.
I'm scrolling down. $31. So they have Walter Nolan being there at 32 on CBS Sports.
It would
Okay.
be great if he were.
Which would
so
be
many people are projecting that I'm pretty sure it's not going to happen, because the guy that people project is never the guy they end up drafting.
No.
In my experience, and
Not at
a lot of
32.
people like
I mean,
Walter Nolan. I just don't see how he gets to 32 unless people make bad decisions ahead of them. You know, the problem with mock drafts is everybody looks at Team X needs Y, so they'll draft Y. But as people saying, and as we all say, just because you need Y doesn't mean you take it in the first round. If there's a much better player at another position, you take that guy. And every team feels that way. It's not
Trust
like
your board always, Les.
Yeah, yes.
When you try it out, and this is what Howie used to do. Howie tried to outsmart people and be like, "Oh my God, I'm breaking news on like how to change the NFL," and that would bite him in the ass all the time.
Sometimes
He finally started trusting himself, trusting his guys, trusting his scouting team, and it's worked out. He's had hit since 2021. He's had home run hits in rounds 1 through 3.
He has, and I hope he continues it. But it's not guaranteed. Certainly,
no, it's not. But
there's Joseph Orkowski checking back in. Check us out on Facebook. Is it true Shamar Stewart's draft?
I don't know.
After the combine, I didn't
haven't
hear
heard
anything
that.
like that. He was a standout at the Senior Bowl, which is what I really emphasize. The guy's a freak. Go turn on his highlights at Texas
He's
A&M.
very
all over the
good.
field. He's fast. He rushes from the inside. He rushes from the outside.
it's like a Miles
He would
Garrett
be an
clone.
absolute dream for the Eagles. Well, I
I
don't know
would-
about that.
No, like measurable wise, yes.
I guess I'm not comparing any of these guys to Miles.
I'm
Garrett.
not, but everybody does. Like, anytime somebody is drafted, they compare the measurables to the other player they're similar to.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying he's going to be
Uh,
Miles Garrett, but I would like Shamar Stewart. I just don't know where he's going to land. Like, I think I have him in the top 15.
Joseph.
Okay, I get my
Harris-
Shamars mixed up. Which guy is Stewart? Is
Stewart's
Texas
Texas
A&M
A&M edge rusher.
but Turner is a Shamar Turner is a. Isn't he a Texas A&M D lineman too?
So they had Texas A&M had Shamar Stewart and Nick Sourton.
Okay,
Sourton.
but there's another guy.
I don't know
A&M.
who Shamar Turner is.
Okay. Yeah, he's a D tackle. Yeah. Okay, he's more of a second round, third round guy, I guess.
Yep.
Okay.
Shamar Turner. Okay, he's on Texas A&M too. I'm not as familiar
Yes.
with him.
Yeah, there's just too many Shamars.
Too
for
many
me.
Shamars, probably a prerequisite for playing for the Texas A&M Aggies, who, by the way, always have a top 5 recruiting class. So
Yeah,
they get-
Joseph. Yeah, he just
They
got
never win
arrested.
a lot of games.
Yeah, he just got arrested for
exactly,
sexual assault charges. Yeah, he's not being drafted anywhere near the Eagles.
Well, that's a problem then. Didn't know that.
Howie said really the only deal breaker for him from a character standpoint in the Eagles is stuff with
Abusing women, yes.
abusing women. I
Which
mean,
is
this a
interesting
guy-
because Jalen Mills dropped way down in the draft because of a domestic violence complaint. Now, Jalen contended and his girlfriend contended that it was nothing. And the Eagles eventually took him in the 7th round, which was way below where he was projected.
Yes.
But the Eagles did, in fact, take a guy who had a domestic violence.
But I would also wager they probably investigated that enough to deem that's probably what it was.
But anytime, anybody gets all high and mighty about we don't do this, Big Dom can tell you a few stories, I'm sure.
Yeah.
If you are looking for a defensive tackle, because we talked about Jordan Davis earlier in the draft, who knows if he's going to be here long term or not. He was the 11th or 12th pick in the draft. 14th. Okay. He hasn't played like that. There's a guy.
I disagree.
Nah, he hasn't.
I don't think he's played up to his draft. He had a very good playoff. But
I don't think he's lived up to the 14th pick, but I think he's been a very good player for them for what they've asked him to do.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's a guy that can get in the
I wish
third
they'd ask
round
him to play a lot more snaps, personally.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's a guy that can get out in the third round named Deion Walker. He's 6'7", 340 pounds. He played really good at the Senior Bowl. He's kind of that nose tackle, brute, double team guy, and he's got some decent feet. It's something to think about in the third round since you did lose Milton Williams.
Now, which guy is that?
That's Deion Walker. Deone
list here. Oh yeah, okay,
Walker.
From Kentucky. Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
And then if you really like sheer size, there's a guy out of Arkansas named Landon Jackson who's also a 6'7" edge rusher.
Yeah.
Really easy to find on film because he's a defensive end that wore number 40 for the Arkansas Razorbacks. We talked about Malachi Starks at safety a little bit. We talked about Reed from Penn State a little bit, who actually has been in on a visit. There's also a couple of guys out of Notre Dame in the secondary, one corner and one safety. Benjamin Morrison is the corner. Love him. Big, physical, played on a really good defense at Notre Dame. And the safety, he's number 0, Xavier that played for a national championship last year. I don't think those guys are being talked about nearly enough. Starks looks like the clear-cut number 1 safety in the draft. But after that, there's kind of a debate about...
What about that guy from South Carolina?
I like him.
Nick, whatever his name is.
Yeah, he's got another... Well, that if your assertion that the Eagles pick guys with goofy names comes true, that could be something.
I'd be fine with that. That would be a really good pick.
What wouldn't you be fine with?
You see, what wouldn't I be fine with? Overreaching for a guy who I have as like a 2nd round grade.
Yeah. If they picked like the 12th best edge rusher at 32, that would be... If
they picked Dylan Fairchild at 32, I would be pretty upset because I like him, but not at 32.
Or Milrow or something like that.
Yeah, right. Jalen Milrow at 32 would have me scratching my head. If I got Jalen Milrow in the 3rd round to be my future backup because Chandler McKee's probably not going to be here after next year, I don't hate that.
There's been a lot of buzz around this guy, Jacob. That Bloss? James Pierce. He's the edge rusher out of Tennessee. If you remember, I think he ran a 4.3 or a 4.4 at the scouting combine in a hoodie. They asked him if he was going to take his hoodie off.
Nah.
And he said, nah, I'm good. And he went out there and he ran a really good time. And, that's that. He's probably going to be a 1st rounder now. Is he going to be the Eagles' 1st rounder?
I like Pierce. I like Walter Nolan. I like Malachi Stark. I like Urazika from Boston College. I like Trey Amos. Depending on the tight end, I'd be okay with that. Depending on the guard, I'd be okay with that. It all depends on who their board is. I don't want them reaching for an edge rusher who they don't have highly touted. Yeah. That's just not. That will piss me off.
what if they draft a guy like Mike Green, who
Oh,
has
no,
been
no.
flying up draft boards out of Marshall?
No, thank you. No, thank you.
I don't
So
know
what
much
if-
about him. I've seen his name a
His
lot.
off the field stuff, no, thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't even know what he did off the field. What did he do?
You're talking like sexual assault and stuff like that.
Well, that's probably why he played at Marshall. But he played really good at the Senior Bowl. I like guys who play well at the Senior Bowl, in case you haven't picked that up.
Yes.
That's that's often a good indicator, but sometimes it isn't. You know who had a great Senior Bowl week? Danny Watkins.
Yes. So
you know,
Brink.
I think 26 when he was 26 when you draft a guy and
I know.
all he wants to be as a fireman. I think that should have
that was the
Senior
problem.
Bowl.
That he didn't want to do it was the problem. He had great talent. I talked to a scout.
He just didn't give a shit.
A few years later, after it all blew up, I said, did the Eagles really reach for this? And they said, no. That was exactly where everybody thought he would be drafted. Everybody thought he would play.
So Mike Green had 2 sexual assault accusations, one in high school and one in college.
Nope.
Wow.
Nope.
No.
So he didn't even learn after the first one.
What about do you guys know much about the safety from Penn State? Where would he?
Kevin Winston?
Yeah.
I have him as like a second round guy.
Well, there's 2 of them out of Penn State. They got Reed and Winston.
Oh, I didn't know. Winston's the guy that I kind of.
Well, Reed's been in for he's a top 30 guy.
Really?
For the Eagles.
Yep.
Hell, I didn't know that. Yeah, I need to do a lot more work on this. I haven't done enough of this.
There's
for what it's worth, Galen Brugger's The Beast ranks my guy way ahead of Reed, the guy I was just talking about.
Right.
Yeah, Joe, there's 0 chance that we're getting Abdul Carter. And I also wouldn't trade out my whole draft for him. That's not happening.
No.
Really the only other guy that I wanted to touch on is I think linebacker is a bigger need than people. Like, I'm not counting on Nakobe Dean at all next season.
Yeah, me too.
That's a devastating injury with the patella tendon. Happened against the Packers, I think.
Happened, really late. Yep.
It happened in the playoffs. He went to the well with the Clemson linebackers last year with Jeremiah Trotter. I think Barrett Carter, who played next to Jeremiah Trotter at Clemson, obviously not last year because Trotter was on the Eagles. His name's Barrett Carter. I think he's really good. I actually wanted them to take Barrett Carter last year in the draft until I found out that he was decided to go back to Clemson. So I would imagine that's a day 2 guy potentially on the defense, but I mean, I really like Barrett Carter. I think
he's not very big.
He's not big.
Short.
None of these linebackers are big anymore.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, Bond has good size, but you remember they made him a linebacker out of nowhere when he's been a defensive end his whole career, and they caught lightning in a bottle, and the rest is history.
Yeah.
All right. Peter, closing thoughts before we get out of here?
Don't overreach. Go get me a good player, and if you got to trade up, go grab him.
When is the first round? So we'll have one more show before.
24.
Yes.
We have one more show until the first round.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I will be coming home from Boston Monday morning.
I like
so
Boston.
I'm going to be very, 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 very.
I would pack your ski pants. Apparently, it's still winter here in the Northeast in mid-April.
Are you running in the marathon or something?
No, I'm going to spend Easter with my buddy Troy up in Boston. My parents are away. My mother, God bless her, is enjoying Paris as we speak.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yes, my dad was nice enough to surprise her with a trip to Paris, which has been her dream of always going.
Oh,
so
that's wonderful.
yeah, right. She can't say nothing no more because she's been asking to go to Paris ever since I was a kid. So he's finally taking care of that for her. So I'm going down to Boston to celebrate with my buddy, and then we're going to see the Red Sox game.
Is it a night game or a day game?
Day game.
Day game?
Yep.
That's crucial. I've only been to Fenway once in April, and it was a night game.
Yep.
By the end of the game, I owned a Red Sox sweatshirt, Red Sox mittens, a
Yep.
Red Sox knit cap. Holy Jesus. Yeah, that was an experience. So yeah, day game, absolutely.
Well, hopefully they're playing a little better by then.
Yeah.
About a week away. But
There we go.
last closing thoughts.
My close, I don't have anything profound. I would love to see them trade up. I just like the idea of getting somebody in the top 20, 22 rather than 32nd, but depends on what it costs. I would love to see an edge. I don't have to see an edge. I'll take, I'm with Pete there. If there's a really great wide receiver or tight end or anything really other than quarterback or running back, I'll go for that in the first round and wait for the rest of the draft to unfold.
Exactly.
I think the team, based on the depth chart that I read, is boxed in to picking defense. What position, I do not really care. I think they need a guy really at all levels. And let's preface this as the Eagles
You don't finish your team in the draft based on your depth chart. It bites you in the ass every time.
I think you have to consider it a little, considering all the money that's been spent on the offensive side of the ball. But anyway, I want to see this defense. What's the word I'm looking for here? Replenished.
Yeah, that's a good
I want
word.
to see replenished, and I want them to. Obviously, I want them to be right.
Overall, yes. Not necessarily first round, but yes.
All right, so it'll be fun little journey over the next week. We have one show before the Thursday night first round.
Easter Monday, we will have risen.
God willing. But for Les Bowen, Peter Young, I am Rob Brinkman. This is Eagles Talk. We'll see you next Monday.
Have fun.